Hey everybody, this is God's Girl G. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you returning to this channel to watch this video and you are not already subscribed, I'm going to encourage you to do so by clicking the subscribe icon below. That way you won't miss any of the videos that I upload. And if during the course of this video you hear something that you like, click the thumbs up, comment below, or better yet, share this video with someone you feel could benefit from its information. With that stated, let's get into today's discussion. A few weeks ago, I started watching the Hulu series or docu-series on the Hillsong Church. And I don't know if many of you have watched that, but in watching that, it provided me with really the topic of today's video, and that is getting weary in well-doing. Now, before some of you guys come for me because of the lead pastor of the New York Hillsong Church, which it's sad that I forget his name at this point, was caught, basically in adultery. It all boiled down that he was literally at a place where he was spiritually bankrupt. And I thought that this would be a good opportunity for me to share with you some insights so that we can all avoid that, signs to look out for, and ways to work through that weariness. Because sometimes we are spiritually worn down and we don't even recognize that there's a problem until it has spiraled out of control. Our physical bodies, our spiritual life, our personal relationships can all suffer because of our unrecognized weariness. Or sometimes we recognize that we are weary, but we don't want to stop. Now, when the going gets tough in this spiritual journey and our spiritual obedience to God, and it will get tough, Paul does not simply say, don't quit. He says, don't grow weary. Galatians 6:9 says, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Now, God does not rescue us from sin and death to sit and do nothing. He means for his people to submit our life, our service to others with the little time that we have on this earth to do good. Now, that type of doing good just does not effortlessly happen. It is something that you actually have to work at, you have to plan for, to seek out and to have the intention of doing good. Now, this doing good is not just for peaceful, convenient times in our lives, but just as much for seasons of suffering and conflict. So being tired is one thing. It's almost like very temporary, but when you are weary, it's almost like it's deeper. It's bone weary, where it permeates all facets of your life, spiritual, physical, and personal relationships. Because you can be tired and you're just physically tired, but you're spiritually okay and your personal relationships are not suffering. So what can cause us to get to this point of weariness? I have a couple of things that I want to share with you. They're in no particular order, but if you find yourself that you are dealing with these types of things, be on the lookout, because your continual dealing of them can make you weary. So let's start with the first one, murmuring. We all know Moses had to deal with murmuring from the children of Israel on their journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. Because after all, they were murmuring because they just didn't trust God's plan. And it took a toll on Moses. So be careful who you are giving your attention and your time, who you're hanging out with. Don't spend too much time with those who murmur and complain, because eventually it will impact your spirit. Next, obstacles, or as the Bible would call it, giants, the giants in our life. Scary obstacles or things that look too big for us to handle can paralyze us, and it can make us weary if we're not careful. In those opportunities where we are facing obstacles that seem too big, we can wear our own self out with our perception of how big they are and the fact that we feel we can't get over them. So be careful of how you think through your obstacles, because we do know we have a God who is on our side. Next is hypocrites. They can make you weary. Now, we all know some hypocrites. They can wear you down if you get too focused on them. They often come and go as if they are genuine. And just the idea of knowing who and what they really are can cause frustration in your life. So we can't allow hypocrites to distract us. And the last one that I'm going to talk about, but certainly not the last of the things that can make us weary, reoccurring enemies and familiar battles. Now this one, I will admit, this one has a tendency to wear me out. The Philistines are mentioned in the Bible 217 times. And even after David killed the Philistine giant Goliath, the children of Israel had to fight them again and again. Enemies and problems that seem to surface over and over again will wear us down over time. That temptation that you keep beating down only to face it again will cause discouragement. But remember, if God delivered you before, He certainly can do it again. Now, next, I'm going to talk about some signs that you may be weary and well-doing. Sign number 1, lack of prayer. Prayer is about having a relationship with God. And if you're failing to communicate with your Heavenly Father, your relationship with God is not healthy. So when you are weary, one of the first signs is that you cut off your prayer time with God, at least on a routine basis. Sign number 2, half-hearted praise. All right, let me break this one down. When we begin holding back our praise and almost like it's going through the routine of giving God praise instead of it being genuinely from the heart, or if we criticize someone else's praise to God thinking, well, they're just being fake, we need to quickly make some spiritual corrections because that is a sign you are getting weary. Sign number 3, murmuring and complaining. Now, we mentioned that under the things that can make us weary and well-doing, but this is a sign also that you are weary and well-doing. It is when you start murmuring and complaining. Now, I get it, occasional complaining and murmuring, that's normal. But when it becomes ongoing, it is reflective that you have a serious spiritual condition that needs immediate attention. Next, bitterness. Now, the subject of bitterness can fill so many books. There's so many books that have already been written about it. The Bible talks about bitterness. But bitterness is actually one of the most dangerous warning signs that you are weary. Bitterness starts small, but can grow very quickly if unchecked. Now, it's possible to be right the wrong way. And you know what I'm talking about, because when you're bitter because you feel an injustice has been done to you. But the way that you're handling it is not good. So you can be right, but behave in the wrong way. And one of those ways is to be correct, but bitter at the same time. Now, finally, I'm going to leave you with some steps on preventing weariness. 1, we must remain humble. When you are tempted to grow weary, ask with open hands, am I doing good? Am I serving others or am I serving myself? With your sense of calling. 2nd, expectantly turn to God. When we feel the temptation of weariness, we have somewhere to turn, someone to turn to for clarity, direction, strength, and that is our Heavenly Father. Because sometimes He may give you some instructions to sit down. And one of the last things that you can do, but certainly not the only thing that you can do, and that is patiently trust God's timing. God has impeccable timing, His promise to exalt us if we humble ourselves. If you are genuinely doing good on God's terms, serving others and not just serving yourself, and you are discouraged, take this promise to heart. In due season, ye shall reap if you faint not. When Christ gives us a particular calling to fulfill, He never promises us that it will come easy. In fact, it's precisely the opposite. Difficult obstacles emerge to confirm the genuineness of our calling. But our breakthrough will not come in retreat, but in enduring under trial with faith in God's promises. Now, I know that we are all believing for something and sowing seeds towards it. And I don't know what that is, but perhaps no one knows but you and God. And maybe the harvest of your labor it's taking longer than you anticipated. But I want to reassure you of this. God's words, His promises are absolutely true. And if you just refuse to give up and quit, it's only a matter of time until your long-awaited due season arrives. Thank you so much for joining me today. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share.